Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank Banco Central de Chile and concretely the organizers of this conference for allowing me to participate in the conference and share with you the work that we are doing at the Spanish Statistics Office, ATINE, to innovate in statistical products based on sources of information that until now we had not used. So let me also congratulate to the previous speakers because the presentations are have been splendid. And at the end of the day, we had from me similar messages than from them. And I am happy for this, because it seems that we are in the good track, and no going back is possible, and the way we are introduced more or less at the same time that pandemic starts, with the introduction of experimental statistics, is the way in which we can to go in the next months, years. So starting with my presentation, so we are experiencing a pandemic that unfortunately is not over. A pandemic that has caused an unprecedented health, social, and economic crisis. So one of the most important lessons we have learned from the pandemic is that the traditional indicators that have been used in economic and social analysis are not enough for a rapid database decision making. Indeed, these traditional indicators have a good quality, they are also comparable, but they are not fast, and they have a frequency that makes them not very opportune. For this reason, they must be supplemented. I am not saying substituted, I am saying supplemented with other kind of indicators based on new sources which offer greater opportunity and frequency, even if they have some weaknesses. So, as an example, in Spain, the lockdown of the population was declared on March 15, 2020, and the first monthly indicators for that month, for March, began to be released at the end of April. So 6 weeks later, 6 weeks without statistical information in which many decisions had to be made. At the Statistics Office, we began to innovate in statistical sources, both public and private, to compile as experimental statistics a set of quick indicators that would help to understand what was happening at that time and also help in the decision making. If you visit the INE website, you will be able to find details on what we are doing in this matter. We are or you will find more experiences in social statistics than in economic ones. But it's I invite you to visit this website for looking at them. So one of the economic activities that suffered the most in the beginning of the pandemic was the retail trade. Since the population could home, the lockdown forced many establishments to close. Only those considered essential remained open, as you can remember. At INE, we are compiling monthly a retail trade index based on data provided by a sample of roughly 12,000 establishments. During lockdown, the field work for this indicator was really complicated, because, as I have said, many establishments were closed, and we were not able to distinguish lack of response, establishments closed by decree, and establishments definitively closed by their owners because the crisis. So it was necessary to address a supplementary indicator that would give us information about what was happening at that time. So in this line, we spoke with the tax agency and we began to analyze the data collected by a new register called Immediate Supply of Information, SII by its acronym in Spanish, which had recently been developed and which, to facilitate the tax obligations of large companies in the value-added tax, have begun to record the daily invoicing of these companies. So we were then with daily data from large companies, that is, sorry, we were with I say, with daily data from large companies, that is, those have declared in Spain the previous year sales of more than 6 million euro. And for them, availing themselves of the registry is an obligation. These companies had to send all invoices electronically on a daily basis with a maximum delay of 4 days after the invoice was issued. As we will see later, the way of the invoicing of companies, the way of managing invoices in each company, introduces very important calendar effects, in the series. But we will see later. From the entire register, we take those companies that belong to the division 47 of the ASIC. INE is in charge by legislation to provide the NACE classification. NACE is the same classification of ASIC in the world context. NACE is for the European Union. INE is in charge to give this data, this code for companies. And we take only the companies belonging to this division 47. The number of large companies in this division is really small. In Spain, just 0.2% of the retailers are large companies. But however, the sales represents just over 51% of the total. Considering the different groups, the situation is different. The representativeness is very high in non-specialized stores, like department stores, big surfaces. And also in the case of trade carried out not in physical stores, such as the online trade with fields like Amazon or other, whose weight has risen, as you know, during the pandemic. It is also relevant in the case of trade of ICT equipment, but on the other hand, it is really not relevant in food stores, mainly small businesses, although most of the food is sold in large stores. In this way, the indicator is compiled by aggregating daily sales of large retailers. It's really an aggregation. It does not have another composition. The collective of companies taken does not change during the year. It's stable during the year, but changes between every 2 years, because new companies are considered large companies in the year T+1 regarding the previous one, and another ones go out to the register. So the number of companies that we consider is different between two years. So the year-on-year rates of growth are calculated taking into account the common group of companies in two consecutive years. We have to understand that we are identifying daily sales by the volume of invoices received every day. This approach makes the indicator highly dependent of the invoicing, the invoice management carried out by the companies. Indeed, if we can see in the slide, in this graph, we can see that regardless of the invoices issued daily, on the last day of the month, they issue a number of invoices that can multiply by up to 4 the average volume of sales on whatever day of the month. We can see 6 months from February to August this year. So the peaks correspond to the last day of the month. So this introduces a really important calendar effect in the series, very difficult to isolate, and very difficult not to remove for the analysis, and in which we are now continuously working. The day, sorry, I go now. The day of the week is also relevant. The volume of invoices between Monday and Saturday does not vary excessively, but some pattern is repeated from one week to the other. But it is really important as well that the number of sales on Sundays drops dramatically. So in the slide, the day 7, 14, 21, but not June because it's the last day of the month. So this is a mix of calendar effects, very, very difficult to isolate. So an assessment of the strengths and the weaknesses of the indicator leads us to conclude that the greatest strength is its opportunity. So the rapid implementation, 4 days of delay, plus a few hours in compiling, in managing information, as well as its daily frequency. Given the weight of large companies in turnover, it fairly faithfully represents the behavior of the monthly retail trade index. It can be used, as we can see in the slide, it can be used as a proxy for nowcasting, as well reproduces quite well the evolution of purchases by credit and debit cards. This indicator was extremely useful during the first weeks of the pandemic, between the months of March and May 2020. As it can be seen in this new graph, the volume of sales in March compared to the previous year, the same day of the week, fell after the lockdown. But in the previous week, was much higher. In which in this week, there was a certain shortage, mainly in supermarkets. Usually in many years, so we can see, we could see, this situation. So the previous week we can't see, or we could see. Rates of growth nearly to 60%, regarding the previous year, the year 2019. If we see in terms of or in cumulative terms, the series in cumulative terms, we can see that between the day 10th and the day 14th, it was open a gap. The gap was going to be reduced during the rest of the month, and finally the total sales in March was lower, were lower, not that in March 2019. So during the month of April, more of the same, the behavior of retail trade before and after the pandemic is maintained during the month of April, and we can see a negative rate of growth as we can see in this graph. So we can I put the point in the graph that corresponds more or less 29 of April, in which the monthly retail index was released, but corresponded to related to the month of March. So the graph speaks by itself, the opportunity of this indicator. Among the main weaknesses of the indicator, 3 are worth highlighting. I will speak about 4. I will introduce one more. First of all, the difficulty in removing calendar effects, and offering a clean series for analysis. We have already commented on them during the presentation. Second, I introduced the different number of collective between 2 consecutive years. This introduces a change between years. That it is really to take into account in order to extract or isolate this effect for providing with a continuous signal. Third, as with the use of credit cards, which, as you know, has increased during the pandemic, the pattern of consumer purchases is also changing. And the weight of purchases from large retailers is greater than from small ones, especially when it comes to online retail trade. This effect should be identified and removed for a more robust analysis. Lastly, but not least, the indicator does not cover the entire Spanish territory. Basque Country and Navarra, amounting more or less 7–8% of the total, have their own tax agencies and have not yet implemented a registry such as the SII. But as soon as this implementation is carried out, the data will be taken to be added with those of the so-called common fiscal territory, so the total Spanish territory except these two regions. The dissemination of this indicator is carried out from the perspective of what has been called experimental statistics. That is not an official statistic. Maybe it will be in the future. We are expecting that this could introduce a new official statistics, and no very far from now, because it really helps to the policymakers, and it is really useful. In between, for instance, you have the data from the monthly retail trade index. We can say that the indicator is nowadays under construction until all the issues that we are talking about are addressed. Right now, the dissemination is carried out twice a month. One around the day 10th of the month with the complete data of the previous month, and another around the 25th of the month, with data for the first fortnight of the same month. We are thinking about expanding the dissemination to offer data every week, so 4 or 5 data a month, and disaggregate the indicator for some groups, for example, online commerce. In the same way, repeat the same experience for other branches of services like autos, restaurants, or transport, in order to expand the statistical database of daily data is also foreseen. Is in our head. Well, this is all I wanted to tell you, and I hope you liked the presentation. Thank you very much, everyone, and of course, ready to answer any questions, comments, or reflections you would like to share. Thank you very much.